Greetings, Mouseketeers, and welcome to Unrepentant Geeking, the show where geek can be a geek. As always, I am your host, Shaun Petros, and I am joined today by frequent guest of the show,
Petros, the writer and creator of My Life as a Video Game.
Yeah, and we are here today to talk about the D23 Expo, aka the Ultimate Disney Fan Event that just completed over the weekend. It ran August 14th to 16th, 2015. It is now Monday, the 17th, as we record this. It was an interesting weekend. I mean, in some ways, technically, some people might say not a lot of announcements, or at least no trailers or stuff, but in the other ways, what we did get was very cool, and we did get some new stuff, certainly. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good event. This was a lot of stuff that would have traditionally been at San Diego was clearly held back for this event. And frankly, I think that's smart in the same way that I think it's smart that Nintendo does their own directs now. I understand that that's when the most eyes theoretically are watching, but there's also something to be said for not being lost in the crowd and being able to own the weekend yourself.
Controlling the information.
Right, and not having to compete. You know, Disney didn't, by doing it now, Disney didn't have to compete with, Batman v Superman or Deadpool or any of the other stuff, you know? Disney owned the weekend. And I really think that's fair to say. This last weekend belonged to Disney. Twitter was talking about Disney. Facebook, everybody was talking about Disney. Disney was the king of the weekend. So, be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit, although it also helps that when you're Disney, as much as this was, we're going to be talking about the big news, there was lots and lots of other stuff. Like, for instance, in the greatest moment in the history of history, Powerline came back. If you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about the Goofy movie. The fake pop star who was at the center of the Goofy movie, the real-life performer, and I've always remembered him as Powerline, so I can't remember his name. I'm sure some of you are already yelling out at me, what kind of Goofy movie fan are you? And all I could say is, I got a lot going on, leave me alone. No, seriously though, he came out and he sang the songs for the Goofy movie and people went nuts. So on top of all, this really is as much a fan event as it is, a press event. Certainly they're trying to get press, but there's also a lot of different panels where they really are just talking about cool stuff that only the Disney fans would care about, But we're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about, really, there were 3 main panels each day, one each day, and we're going to go day by day with each panel, and we're going to start with the animation panel, because that was the one they held, I believe, on the 14th. So they had, as you would expect, John Lasseter came out, and he introed Zootopia, and we found out, if you don't know, Zootopia is one of the next big Disney, not Pixar, Disney, it's a new Walt Disney Animation Studios film. It's basically your typical people as animals kind of film, aka the kind of character designs that will leave a lot of boys and girls confused for many years to come as they enter puberty. And it's going to star Jennifer Goodwin and Justin Bateman. And we also found out that Shakira will be voicing a character and contributing a song to the film soundtrack. And she's playing a disturbingly sexy, I guess, gazelle. It's going to confuse a lot of kids. A lot of kids are going to be finding themselves wondering, what the hell is wrong with me? All I can say is, welcome to puberty, kids. I hope you enjoy the experience. I'm not bitter. What are you talking about, Petros?
I didn't say anything. Does anyone else find it hilarious that at this point, Disney is kind of like, Disney's only real competition now in the animation world is themselves.
Yeah, it's Pixar.
Pixar and Disney are literally the only,
they're not the only, but yeah, DreamWorks has been taking a lot of hits lately, and they're in trouble financially, and thankfully, I guess Home was a hit for them, but unfortunately, tragically almost, I don't want to overuse the word, but How to Train Your Dragon 2 underperformed, which is a shame because I really like that. I love that whole series and franchise. But yeah, and there is Fox and there's some others out there, but they're not. Yeah, it's no longer like Disney Pixar in the same way. Yeah. Disney DreamWorks. Any thoughts on Zootopia?
I guess it looks fairly cool. It's a Disney animation thing. It can be pretty. It's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be cool, and it's like you said, gonna confuse a lot of young boys.
Yeah,
In
I'm looking.
in the same way that the certain aspects of Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit confused me as a child.
She's not bad. She's just drawn that way. But yeah, I mean, it's look. I am looking forward to Zootopia, but I do roll my eyes a little. Like the tagline is like nothing you've seen before, which is a pun, and I'm like, but once you take away the pun, and I do love a terrible pun, it warms the cold, dark cockles of my heart. But seriously, Disney trying to pitch this as something we've never seen before. Mickey Mouse, anthropomorphized animals coming from Disney is not a new concept. And it's not a new concept in general. I mean, Kung Fu Panda says hi. I mean, really, I am looking forward to it because of the cast and the talent involved, but trying to pitch it as this gigantic new thing is maybe a bit eye-rolling, but whatever. All right, one of the bigger announcements at the animation panel was a new animated film, continuing in the line of reimagining fairy tales with one-word names. We have, from the creators of Frozen, Gigantic. This is a really fun-looking new take on Jack and the Beanstalk. It's going to be CGI. They've said they're going to use some of the similar stuff we've seen, like in Paperman, and where it's going to have that animated, that 2D almost look. If it was a video game, like the cel-shaded look. Basically, it's going to be Jack and the Beanstalk set during the Age of Exploration in Spain. We're going to have a Jack who's an adult, he's going to be Spanish. He's going to go up to the world of giants, and it's going to be a whole land. And he's going to meet up with his co-star, will be a young 11-year-old girl who's based off a real Spanish girl they met. Apparently, they drew a lot of inspiration from that. And there's going to be things like storm giants. I mean, the whole idea is this is not, as you would expect from Disney at this point, this is not Jack and the Beanstalk as you know it. This is one where they're really going to dig into it. Sounds like they're going to try and make the world of the giants an actual world. And we're going to get music from the Frozen team, along with some others. But we're going to get some songs from Christian Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, the husband-wife team who did great stuff on Frozen. So I'm very excited. I mean, all we have is a single teaser image of Jack climbing up and the young girl meeting him for the first time. And if the movie looks like this teaser image, this is going to be gorgeous, and I expect it will be. I'm sure. I feel like Disney's gotten a second, or maybe at this point a third wind with the fairy tales. They're no longer just they're no longer doing the when they transferred from the classic age to the then modern age. They had a formula, but that formula has more or less given way now to a new fairy tale formula. One that's a little more balanced, and representation's also good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Gigantic. Any thoughts, Petros?
Well, just gonna go on to what you were saying just now about like the various ages of Disney. I feel like we are in the Disney re-renaissance almost. Like this is like the second time
it's the third age of Disney.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, the third age of Disney, to make it sound all Lord of the Ringsy.
Well, no, I fully expect 200, 300 years from now, assuming we are not, that humanity hasn't completely wiped itself out, I fully expect there to be religions, full-on religions will have risen around Disney, and there will be different sects. There will be the Marvel sect and the Star Wars sect and the animation sect, and you'll have different branches, and they will speak of it as the epochs of Disney. So, and you may think I'm full of it, but you actually stop and think about it, people, and it's scarily believable, isn't it? If somebody pitched a sci-fi movie tomorrow where, where 1,000 years in the future Disney has become a religion, I don't think any exec in the world would have trouble buying it. But anyways, you were saying.
No, that's pretty. That kind of sums it up quite accurately, actually. In that in that it's
I mean, are you excited for Gigantic? Do you like the concept of a different take on Jack and the Beanstalk, or you kind of tired? Would you like to see them?
I feel like we've entered this weird realm now where like, and it's not the first time this has happened because this is actually the third age of Disney, but there was the first time Disney did things with fairy tales and stuff like that, it was straight up adaptations. The second time, it was slightly prettier versions of adaptations. Now there's like they're doing adaptation. Now we're in this, and it's not just Disney is doing this, but it's everybody is doing this now. It's like these adaptations that have a new twist to them, and I'm both.
Revisionist fairy tales is how I'd call
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Revisionist fairy tales. Kind of like the South. Sorry.
What I would say is the first age of Disney was the classic age. They certainly made huge swathing changes to the fairy tales, but they were doing, they took a very traditional approach. The second age was the Broadway age, where you got the big kind of, the blockbuster and the musical and all that. Nowadays, they're still doing musicals again, but it's less Broadway and more the music is there, but then again, the last half of Frozen, by the end of Frozen, the music has dropped away in a way that maybe wouldn't always have been so back in the second age. So, but yeah, all right. Finally, are you happy? Are you looking forward to Gigantic? Just real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, I'm interested in it. I mean, like a lot of Disney's new stuff is like I wouldn't say hit and miss, but I would say, um,
Aimed at different audiences.
yeah, definitely different audiences to the way at least it was in the '90s. In the '90s, definitely.
And while we're talking about Disney fairy tales, Gigantic is a ways off, but their next big one, I believe, is Mona. And this one's very interesting for a number of reasons. This is directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, one of their classic teams, and it's basically the story of a Polynesian princess who defies her family to sail into the Pacific Ocean, and there she meets the demigod Maui. And they go into this adventure, and the big thing is that Maui, of course, is voiced by Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. And I really think this is this is great to see from Disney. Like I said earlier, to a lesser extent, it's gigantic, but representation, we're at a time where representation is more important than ever, and that's good. And it's great to see, we don't have enough variety. I mean, there's definitely been some strides, but we still don't have nearly enough variety in terms of Disney princesses, as it were. And to get to see a Polynesian story, and to get to see a different, fairy tale or a legend from a different culture than what we often get. Something that isn't European, something that isn't, just the classic stuff. I'm really excited for that. And of course, then you have the voice talent. And by all accounts, they had a song from the film that brought the house down. I think Mona has the potential to be huge. I really do think they've got probably the next Frozen on their hands.
I hope so, and like hopefully this will be more, bit better for them and a bit better to receive than the last few times they've tried to diversify their portfolio,
Well,
like
I
Pocahontas or Princess and the Frog, or even Mulan to a certain extent.
Princess. Hey, you shut up. Mulan is what. They're doing a live action remake of Mulan, and good for. And that's actually one. That's one of the few live action remakes I could totally get behind because there's definitely rooms for a different. I mean, I love Mulan, and I love Princess and the Frog.
My friend Yoshi would be totally great for that part.
Anyways, I'm looking forward to Mona, but I'd be lying if I said I would love to see Disney do a traditional animated film again. But I'm not holding my breath. And to be fair, they are really pushing things at least in terms of what they could do. If like they are really blending the line between what is 2D animation, what's 3D animation. So maybe that's becoming irrelevant. All right, the second half really of the animation panel was taken up with Pixar. First of all, apparently they showed Riley's First Date, which is a new Inside Out short from the upcoming Inside Out Blu-ray release. I loved Inside Out. I thought Inside Out is definitely among the very best that Pixar's done. I am not somebody who buys into the narrative that Pixar is somehow on the way out, that Pixar's input has been lesser. I mean, yeah, Cars 2 wasn't very good. Okay, yes. I mean, okay, no, let me rephrase that. Cars 2 was okay. And I understand that we want better from Pixar than okay, but it was still better than 90% of the shit that comes out there, okay? And I will absolutely say that. And it was it was a passion project for John Lasseter. Let him do what he wants. Hasn't the man earned a couple of Cars films? Not to mention it makes so much money. And I know, but that does matter, people. I'm sorry. These things, money does matter. Petros and I were talking about something we can't go into off camera, but he and I are both very aware of just how much money matters. So you can poo-poo it all you want. But okay, loved Inside Out. I'm looking forward. I'm glad we'll get another short. I actually think Inside Out would work really well as a continuing series of shorts. I don't know if we could ever really get a sequel to Inside Out, but kind of like Toy Story, I could see like dozens of Inside Out shorts. Couldn't you?
Yeah, I think Inside Out was was maybe one of the best Pixar films in recent. People say Pixar's on the way out. I don't think it's on the way out. I think it's just you know every like
There will always be valleys and
I'll put
peaks.
it this way: Cars 2 is like James Cameron's Titanic. It made a shit ton of money, but
Okay.
it may not have been his greatest movie.
Wow. Okay, I just want to let everybody know that the opinions and thoughts of Petros Elanu do not in any way whatsoever reflect the opinions of those of us here at Unrepentant Geeking or Channel Awesome. And that if you wish to murder the person responsible, Petros is the one. Spare me! I love Titanic!
Terminator 2, Titanic. Let's be honest.
Here, far, wherever you are. Okay, I think I killed all of them, Petros, so we're safe. Petros? Petros! Okay, seriously.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Look,
I,
I know this.
I was also kind of looking for where is the Metal Gear Solid theme right now.
Yeah, I was. I mean, look, I didn't love Cars 2, but I did really like Brave and Monsters University. Was Monsters University as good as Monsters Inc? Hell no! Monsters Inc is probably my favorite Pixar
And
film.
you know, I will go on the record and say because I hadn't seen Monster Inc. until I saw Monsters University. Um,
Okay.
I didn't see Monsters Inc. when it originally came out, and for so many years I didn't even see Finding Nemo either. But
How have you lived?
uh,
Seriously.
I spent a lot of time masturbating
Booze?
and drinking too. That's definitely another thing. Yeah, and I think what it came down to really is when I watched University, I really enjoyed it, and then I watched Monsters Inc. and I probably do think Monsters Inc. is probably the better movie, but
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy them on about the same level personally because they're both really enjoyable movies.
Monsters Inc. has far more real emotion than Monsters University. I don't think Monster University could ever match the Boo. You know what I mean? And what they do with Boo in the film and the relationship between Boo and Sully and how they bring Mike into it. And it's just, I'm sorry, I tear up at moments in Monsters Inc. no matter how many times I see him. I mean, the bit where Sully realizes he scared Boo, or that last shot, the way his face comes alive. I'm tearing up right now. God damn it! It gets me. And there's nothing remotely that emotional in Monsters University. But Monsters University was really fun, and I really appreciated. Actually, I like the fact that we were set mostly in the world, and we got to see a lot more of that world. And I really liked that world, and I'd be willing to spend more time in it. And I still thought they had a good thing in it. Look, people say all they do is sequels. No, they do two sequels, then they do an original movie. That's the way they work now, for good or for ill. But they also still say that they are motivated by making sure they have a good idea for the story. And at the same time, all I hear is, we'll get to it in a second, is people want Incredibles 2. So what you're really saying is you don't mind Pixar sequels as long as it's a Pixar sequel to a film you want. Well, that's hypocrisy, boys and girls, and I won't stand for it. Nah. Okay, seriously though, let's get back on track, shall we?
Anyway,
They showed some more from Good Dinosaur. I don't really think I have much to say about Good Dinosaur at this point. I'm looking forward to it. Beyond that, what else is there to say? Any thoughts on Good Dinosaur, or should we just move on?
let's just move on.
All right, then we got into some good stuff. We got details on Finding Dory, which this was apparently pushed by Ellen DeGeneres, who actually came out on stage. She was the one who really pushed for it. We also found out that Ed O'Neill will be voicing Hank, the seven-limbed octopus. Ty Burrell will voice Bailey, the beluga whale, and Kathleen Olsen will voice Destiny, the whale shark, who thinks she's a whale and not a shark. Yeah. I love Finding Nemo. I said that Monsters Inc. is probably my favorite, but I think the single most emotional moment, maybe in the entire Pixar canon, is the monologue that Dory gives to Marlin right after they think Nemo's dead. And DeGeneres' performance in that scene gives me chills every time I see it, where it's basically her talking about how she doesn't want to be alone and how she's finally found something that completes her life, and he's just I mean, I love Finding Nemo as much because of the cast, and I love Ellen DeGeneres. I'm all for more adventures with these characters in this cast. And I definitely think you can build a film around Dory. I also think the idea that, somebody who has no memory of her past, yeah, there is something there. How did she get like this? Where did she come from? There is potential there. So I'm very excited for Finding Dory. I think it's going to be a lot of good. And I think people are too down on Pixar sequels because don't forget Pixar's also done some of the best sequels people have ever seen. Okay. Any thoughts on Finding Dory?
For the longest time, I thought this was actually a sequel that we didn't really need. Or I still don't need it, but I want it.
Because now you've seen Nemo.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I saw Nemo like 5 years ago now, but that's 5 years ago, and everyone else was talking about it 10 years before that. So
Right.
it's interesting, and I have a special love for Finding Nemo because it was someone I really care about introduced me to the movie properly and watched it with me for the first time. Um, and it's you know it's interesting to see a sequel coming out of this, and I think it's so long as it's handled right, because like we've seen sometimes things go off the deep end, and I haven't seen any footage out of this personally yet. But I hope it'll go well. I hope it goes well. I'm looking. I want this to be a really good movie. I really want it to be a good movie.
I mean, Andrew Stanton's going to he's co-directing it. You have a lot of the original writers back. I don't think there's any reason to be necessarily negative about it. All right, then we got what's going to be coming down the line. So the way it's going to go is Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory, Toy Story 4, which we'll get to in a second, and then their next original film in 2017, Coco. This one has raised some controversy, I guess. Basically, for a long time now, to be fair, long before Book of Life, which we'll talk about in a second, came out, Pixar had also been working on a film based off Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. And if I butchered that pronunciation, I seriously apologize. I literally flunked twice out of Spanish. So, anyways, yeah, this is dealing with the Day of the Dead. They explain the setup is basically, I mean, if you don't know, the Day of the Dead is the Halloween. I mean, it's not really Halloween-esque. It gets kind of convoluted in with it. It's a celebration of the past, especially of family members of the past. And the idea is it's that you go to the graveyard and you build altars and you leave out food for spirits of the family members. This is the very gross oversimplification of it. If you want more about it, go look online, okay? I'm not Wikipedia, okay? It's basically about the living celebrating the lives of the dead and celebrating their own, it's about the past and the future and the present all coming together. The plot for Coco will feature 12-year-old Miguel on the evening of Dia de Muertos. He goes out on an adventure. Basically, he meets up with a family member from the past, and things kind of spiral out of control from there. Now, the big controversy is, of course, the 2014 film, The Book of Life, which was also built heavily around, Mexican culture, and especially around Dia de Muertos, and we actually went to the land of the dead and skeletons. And look, to all the people who say that Pixar is ripping off Book of Life, all I can say is, Grim Fandango says hello. By which I mean, this is not a new concept, people, okay? Stories have been using this as a setup for as long as this holiday has existed. And it is, it's not hard to see why a creative entity like Pixar would be interested in it, because there's so much beautiful art over the years has been generated around this. It's a fascinating holiday, and the whole aspect of it, of the past and the present coming together, and the Mexican culture. And I'm all for, again, I think diversity does matter. I know some of you are rolling your eyes. I don't care. It is important that there are as many cultures as we fucking can get represented in popular media. So you know what? There is more than enough room for 2 films in a couple of years about this topic matter. And by the way, there's also room because Book of Life bombed. And that's a real shame. I just want to say, if you never saw Book of Life, you abso-fucking-lutely should. It is a gorgeous film. It is just so damn beautiful. The writing is good. I don't know if it quite reaches the level of a Pixar film in terms of writing, but it is so beautiful. It's just one of the most beautiful animated films I've ever seen. Go see it, seriously. Okay, your thoughts on Coco?
I agree. I think it looks like it could be really beautiful, and I think it could be. Sorry, man, my brain's like frying at the moment. Sorry. I've been in sensory overload today. Yeah, I think it looks really beautiful. I think it could be a lot of fun to see this, and I think you are right, definitely about representation. There's, especially in the current world we're living in right now, with everything that's going on. I think it now more than ever is important that the youth of today grows up with like more representation in their culture. I mean, I will personally admit to the fact that when I was younger, I was probably considering like a little bit of a little shit, and could be sometimes a little bit racist because that was just what media had kind of imbued in me in a way. It was like white guys were always the heroes, and the white story, the white story, the white story. And I feel like the more representation we can get out there, the more people can actually realize the world is a lot more fucking diverse than they realize it.
Yeah, and I think it's important. All right, finally, we're going to wrap up our talk on animation with, you talked about unnecessary sequel, and I got to admit, when they announced, I hoped there was a point where I hoped we would never see Toy Story 4, okay? Because, first of all, I thought Toy Story 3 was so good. I mean, the ending to Toy Story 3 is just so, I mean, from the trash compactor to that last play date, yes, it makes no sense that a grown man, at this point is playing, I mean, shut up! Shut up, you cold, unfeeling bastard! Just stop it. Stop being so damn cynical. I'm sorry, this is the thing. I remember so many people like going, oh, he wouldn't play with the little, I mean, shut up. You're dead inside. You're dead inside. Whew, that was a long buried trauma. Anyways, so, and then when we started getting these half-hour Toy Story shorts, and the initial, the shorts going before the movies, I thought, okay, this is perfect. You can keep Toy Story going, but you don't have to do another movie, because I don't know how you do another movie. I don't know where you take the story, how do you do the whole, the kid and their toy thing after what you've done? I mean, you did the initial thing with the young kid, then you did the thing with the history, I mean, and then you did it as the kid, as the adult. I mean, you've covered the whole realm.
Like,
Where do you go from there?
a man child takes it in, and no, they've done that. Hang on.
Yeah. I mean, and as it turns out, where you go is someplace completely different. And they said, basically, Toy Story 4 will not be really about the relationship between kids and toys, but instead will be a romance. And it will specifically deal with the romance between Woody and Bo Peep. And if you're any kind of Toy Story fan, Bo Peep basically got written out in like a one-line, throwaway line, that she was gone. The idea was that she'd been gone. It's like, I mean, it did make you wonder, considering what these toys in the previous two movies had been willing to go through in order to save their fellow toys. You did kind of have to wonder, what the fuck had to happen that they couldn't rescue Bo Peep? But okay, fine, I'll go along with it because I love you, Pixar. But don't think you aren't stabbing me in the heart. I thought Peep and Woody would last. Take over, Petros. I need a second.
So, while Shaun is in the middle of having a mental breakdown, the sorry, I laugh at your misery sometimes. It's entertaining.
You're a monster.
Yes, I am. I think like I'm one of the people who for a very long time thought, do we really need another Toy Story movie? The truth is, this kind of comes into it like with Finding Nemo. It's like, and even more so, it's like, do we need one? No. Do I want one? Yes. And I think like like a nice trilogy is always beautiful, but it's only ever spoiled if the fourth movie sucks. And in this case, the fourth movie won't suck. Let's be honest. It's all the same team. It's all like it.
And it's also that, and they brought in some new voices too, because like Rashida Jones and Will McCorrick are working on the script, and based off of a treatment by Andrew Stanton. So it's both old and new coming together.
Yeah.
I think, look, I'm a lot more optimistic about Toy Story 4 now. I mean, okay, I wasn't pessimistic about Toy Story 4, but I was a lot less worried or nervous about Toy Story 4. Hearing they're not going to just try and redo stuff, they're going to take a different direction. I mean, it's still going to be a Toy Story film. It's about Woody and Buzz going out to find Bo Peep. So in some ways, it's the classic, toys going out into the real world setup. But I think we can both agree what made the Toy Story films great is the heart underneath them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have strong memories of, as a younger person, how many adults I saw crying during the Jessie scene in Toy Story 2. It got people, as Sarah McLachlan sings that gorgeous, beautiful song. You know, how many people in that theater? I can still remember because I saw it multiple times. Or how many people got really. I remember how when I saw Toy Story 3, how upset kids got during the furnace scene and how misty-eyed parents got during the final. I mean, you know, these movies reach to something real and emotion, and I believe Pixar when they say we're not just doing this for the money.
Yeah, I can agree on that. And you know what? So what if they're doing it just for the money? If it's a great film and we enjoy it and we pay our money, who gives a fuck?
Well, I mean, I'd hate for them to just do it for the money. I'd like to believe they have good ideas. On the other hand, Cars 3 has been confirmed. So, yeah, but okay, and the good news is it doesn't have a release date yet, and it's not coming out until at least at the earliest 2019. And it's coming out after Incredibles 2.
People have got to understand Cars 3 and Cars 2 and 1 pay for pretty much everything Pixar does.
People don't understand when they complain about Cars. They don't understand that every year Cars merchandise by itself makes Disney billions. Literally, I'm not. Like, that is not.
Cars has made probably billions. More money than Frozen.
Forget about the movie. The quoting the great Yogurt. The merchandise. I mean, no, really.
People don't realize just how much merchandise actually makes people money. And I mean, like, just as an example, in something like I think it was 2003, Disney bought Power Rangers for an estimated $10 billion because of the merchandising. The fact that they got Star Wars, which we're going to get to in a second, for $4 billion, that is maybe the biggest steal in history.
Yeah. Look, I before people get to, I mean, look, we're getting Incredibles 2, and yes, we're getting Cars 3. Let us just remember, Planes was not by Pixar, that was by Disney. And yes, I don't like Cars 2. I don't think it's great. But I actually like the original Cars. I do. Yeah, it's a really familiar story, but okay, so what? I think it's well told. Oh, the world makes no sense at all unless you subscribe to the post-apocalyptic theory. And even then, it's a little weird, but who cares? You're overthinking it. They just wanted to do a movie about talking cars. And you know what? If occasionally they want to do something for themselves, they've earned it. It's not all about us, people. Despite what I said earlier, just real quick, I'll mention the video game stuff real quick. We'll get it out of the way, and then we can get to the real stuff. Really, there wasn't a lot of video game news. The biggest thing, I think, even then, you may not care. I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, and maybe I'll talk with some of my other Kingdom Hearts friends later about this, but basically, Big Hero 6 will be in Kingdom Hearts 3. It will be telling a sequel to the movie. We'll have an evil version of Baymax, who's basically the version of Baymax that was left behind in the rift at the end of the movie, and has been infected by the powers of darkness. And we got a teaser image, which was Sora riding on, good Baymax's back as in the air as they fight evil Baymax. I love Big Hero 6 coming to it, absolutely sure. They also revealed that the Keyblade will be the ultimate unlock in Disney Infinity 3.0. Petros has no real opinion.
I like Kingdom Hearts. It's pretty cool. And I'm glad that they're not just using old Disney stuff. They're using some new stuff.
Yeah. Though I still am going to say that if Wreck-It Ralph isn't in this game, I'm going to be immensely disappointed.
Yeah, that does seem like a missed opportunity if they don't. And video games have come so far since the last major Kingdom Hearts game, since Kingdom Hearts 2, and Disney has come so far in that space that it'll be kind of disappointing if there isn't some kind of Disney Infinity crossover thing going on, like there is already with the Keyblade thing in Infinity 3.0, and I think that. Disney's bought Marvel and Star Wars in that space of time as well. Sorry, Marvel and Star Wars and Indiana Jones in that space of time. So, if
Kingdom Hearts cribs so much from Star Wars as it is. On the one hand, they feel like they're a natural fit. On the other hand, I'm afraid the universe might implode if they came together. I mean, we've already had basically lightsaber. I mean,
Let's be honest. If there's any one game that's going to make the universe implode, it's Kingdom Hearts. I mean, when people first announced, oh, by the way, there's going to be a crossover with Final Fantasy and Disney, my instant reaction was,
My instant reaction was, my money, take it all!
But now, can you imagine the cross between Final Fantasy, Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel? And Pixar?
I don't have to imagine it. It's called Disney Infinity. Boom, baby!
Well, there's no Final Fantasy there.
Give it time. Give it time.
Disney will consume the world.
Hey, would you really be surprised if tomorrow Disney announced they were buying Square Enix? Would you really be surprised?
Not really, honestly.
Would there be a part of you that would you go, you know what? This kind of makes sense. Yeah. I can
I've
see
been
that.
fully expecting if Nintendo didn't get back on their feet when they were having their downtime that we'd hear Nintendo's been bought by Disney.
Yeah, I'm just talking about Square Enix. But all right, enough. Okay, so that's the video game side. Let us move on. Move on. Move on. Move on. Move on.